morning, everyone. We get to walk into week 2 of our teaching series, How is Your Soul? With the intention that through this series of teachings, through these 5 weeks, we will be able to learn more how to care about that which is most important to us, which is your soul. No matter if you're walking in here with a soul that feels it's dead and in drought or it's alive and vibrant, I want you to care more about your soul at the end of this month than you do today. For us to do that, we have to be able to understand what the soul is and where it comes from and its purpose. And we sought to try and do a little bit of that last week as we opened up the series. And if you missed that, you can go to epiphanystation.com and find it underneath the watch tab there. Because today's not so fun. Today we get to talk about hurt. We get to talk about what happens and what it looks like and what we do when our soul aches and it's burdened and it yearns to feel better. Next week, we'll talk about it getting better and it being healed and being restored, but that's not our conversation this week. Our conversation is what it really looks like for us to call out and say, my soul is not in the place that I want it to be. There was a man who once wrote and once said and once sang, "How long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day?" Now, you're walking in here this morning or you're watching online and you might feel like you yourself are in that place. You know what it means to feel deep anguish, not mild annoyance and upset, but deep anguish and pain. And I couldn't be more glad that you chose to be here this morning for our conversation. Some of you are walking in this morning and you don't feel like that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that at some point, you have. And I'm going to go out on an even bigger limb and say at some point in the future, you will. Because the soul feels anguish. The facts are we all feel anguish and sorrow, that deep-rooted thing that we often don't even understand what's going on. Because when it does happen, it can be disorienting. And it can be confusing, and we can fail to grasp the very nature of what's going on, because all we know is we hurt. All we know is it's not right. All we know is the symptoms of a hurting soul. We experience seasons of purposelessness or hopelessness, or even worse, we slip into things like depression. We engage in self-destructive behaviors, self-harming actions. We find ourselves not being able to deal with things and blowing up and blowing out at places and people we thought we never would. And often to try and stay any sort of pain, we will find ourselves turning to whatever and whoever we can to experience some peace. And all the while, what's going on eludes us. What's going on is never realized. But we ask, why? Why does my life hurt so much? Why does my soul hurt so much? What is going on? Is this just God's idea of a joke and he's just punishing me for something? Or is this just life and is life just pain? And those are the two mentalities that lead people to want to cease the existence of both. This morning what I want us to do is I want us to go on a little bit of journey, and I'm not saying it's going to be rainbows and butterflies, but a little journey of understanding where this pain comes from, this deep down pain comes from, so we can start to deal with it. It's written in Lamentations 1:20, a response given or basically a cry given by not a person, but a people, a whole nation of God's people, said, "Look, Lord, see my anguish. My heart is broken and my soul despairs. For I have rebelled against you. In the streets the sword kills, and at home there is only death." I'm going to start us off nice and soft and cushy by saying every single hurt and pain that you experience is because of rebellion. Every deep down soul anguish you will ever experience will be because of rebellion. It is rebellion against what is best for you, rebellion against what is best for your soul, rebellion against the one who knows what is best for your soul. And it doesn't just need to be your rebellion. It can also be the rebellion of others, the choices of others. We cause pain to the soul of others as well, and we cause this despair. Because if we're going to believe that there is a soul and that you have one, and that the soul is that spiritual part of you, if we're going to believe that that spiritual part of you was created by someone, created by, let's say, God, then we have to believe that that God then knows what is best for that soul, how to care for it, how to nurture it. He knows how to guard that soul. So whenever we start to push against that plan, it's not going to be good for that soul. Like I say, Lamentations was written by the whole nation, all of God's people at one time together, feeling the same thing. And they were able to express the deep pain and hurt that they had, but they were also able to diagnose what the problem was. He said, "For I have rebelled against you." Now, when we talk about rebellion in church, it usually comes with a much bigger podium that you can thump and makes deep, booming sounds while I do it, but I don't have one of those. So I'm just going to say, rebellion is difficult for us to grasp. Often when we talk about a relationship with God, we don't connect the dots of what rebellion truly means, because I get a different picture in my head when I think rebellion. Often when I think rebellion, well, I'll be forthright, I think of my children. I think of how at the same time, every single day, it would appear that sleep is a new concept to them. That happens at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and 1 a.m. All these times in which they think, well, I'm just not going to do what you tell me to do. So that's how I view rebellion. Or some of us, when we think rebellion, might think of, taking up arms against a tyrant or a government. Some of you, when you think about, rebelling, think about wasting crates and crates of high-quality tea that was transported thousands of miles, ruined by just being, no, I'm only kidding, I'm over it. British people are the worst. But when it comes to rebellion against God, well, a tantrum doesn't cause rebellion, doesn't cause God any frustration. He doesn't need us to go to bed. We can't shoot at God and try and overthrow. We can't throw his tea in the water. So how is it that we are supposed to rebel against God? What do we do when we rebel against God? Well, we actually do what children do, and we do what those people in the Boston Harbor did. They rebelled in any way they could, in a way that they could control, to cause pain, to cause anguish in return. And the only thing that you genuinely, truly control is you. You control your life. You control your decisions. Therefore, you control the health of your soul. And your rebellion starts with the words, "I will not." I will not do what you say. I will not follow you. And every single time we chose it, or we will choose it because we think it's a good decision. Like, honestly, when we weigh it up, it's not like we're being forced into it. It's like, I am going to choose in this instance to not do the thing that God would have me do, because I see it somehow profiting me more than following his way would. Those are the decisions we make. And then we come back again to experiencing anguish and sorrow. And today we're here because we need to talk again about anguish and sorrow, and we'll need to talk about it again tomorrow and in a few weeks. Because we continuously choose not to do what is best for our souls. And the reason that we choose that is we believe the biggest lie that you've ever believed. We believe the biggest lie that has ever caused the most damage and the most harm and the most hurt to you, your soul, and those around you. The belief that everything that God has been doing was for something other than your good. And that everything that God has ever done or said is for anything other than your good. Because when we believe that, we act against him. We act contrary. We rebel. And every action then causes harm to the thing that God only knows how to guard and protect your soul. We cause harm to our own. We cause harm to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, to your child, to your parent, to your friend. We cause harm everywhere we go when we choose to behave in ways not prescribed for soul health. And we do unspoken, often untold, often unrealized hurt. And then on the back end, we're like, why does it hurt so much? Why so much anguish? Why so much pain? Why so much sorrow? Now, if we were to believe that that's not the cycle of life that God was intending, if perhaps there was a better idea, then we must learn how to understand and follow and see that better plan. Because there is one. God has this idea that your soul would actually be able to find rest, this plan that it would be able to have life and it to basically fall into and percolate into your marriage and your family and every other part of your life, because your soul is where it needs to be. So he tries to give advice. Sometimes he gives orders, sometimes he gives commandments, ways in which we can avoid damage to our souls. Avoid living a cycle of a heavy, dirty soul that saps life and strength over and over again. There is a way that he has created that we would no longer have to guess what the right options are of how we would choose soul health. The first Christians were actually known as the people of the way. And this is people of this way of connecting to our God, of loving him and loving people, of having a healthy soul. And for us to be able to understand that way, we have what we call today the message or the word. It is this series of books, 66 of them, 31,000 verses to help us understand this way. The most produced, most sold, most stolen, and I believe also in America, most owned and unread at the same time, book in existence. God penned a way for us to be able to understand the way. He gave us what we call today the Bible. Because if you were to take the Bible and you were to juice it down to its core essence of what it is for and why it's given to us, it is so you could understand some things about that eternal part of you, that soul part of you, that thing that has an origin and it has a destiny and it has a purpose. See, everything the Bible is trying to do is trying to tell you how your soul can be reconciled, it can be restored. And to do that, God has to talk to you and I about sex. He has to be able to talk to us about our money, how we earn it and how we spend it. He has to be able to talk to us about living in community and worship and service and discipline and foolishness and love and hate. Talking about all these things, because all of these things affect the state of your soul. All of these things have the opportunity to bring vibrancy and life to your soul, to the soul of your partner, your family, your church, and all of them have the opportunity for you to bring damage, to bring hurt. There is a way, this way of living life, this godly way, for us to go into it, for us to live out the rest of our days in a cycle of health. But God also knows that's not our tendency. He also knows that our tendency instead is to rebel over and over and over again and cause damage over and over and over again, which is why he promises us that there is always a way to break the cycle. There is always a way to be done with that. There is always a way to come back. In Jeremiah 6:16, God had this penned. He said, "Look, this is what the Lord says. Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the old godly way and walk in it. Travel its path, and you'll find rest for your souls." Amen. God has this desire for so much rest for your soul. For you to be able to have so much life and vibrancy and power within your soul that we're just not taking him up on. Like he is basically trying to gear your life towards crossroads moments over and over again so that you can choose the healthy way. Also that you can choose the rebellious way. Because Jeremiah 6:16 is not just this promise, it is a warning. Continuing in 17, when it says, "Travel its path, you'll find rest for your soul," it says, "But you reply, no, that's not the road we want." God even says, "I posted watchmen over you who said, listen for the sound of the alarm," but you replied, "No, we won't pay attention." God is seeking to warn you and I that yes, we can go our own way, but that ill-fated, ill-considered path is not some great pioneering of freedom against some foreign tyrant trying to wreck and ruin your life. It is instead the decision to wage a very successful war against your own soul. God is desirous of warning you that there is health and rest to be had, but it's found in the old godly way, and you get to choose that. He would have us choose that, and he tries to make it as simple as possible. But we are here because it's not so simple. If it was so simple, you would have been able to be told it once and we'd be good. And it's not as picturesque and cliche as we would hope, this idea of stepping up to a crossroads. And obviously, I want you to picture some sort of terrible Disney movie at this point, in which the left road is just like rainbows and like lollipop tulips and bunnies skipping along, and the other one's this dark, looming, foreboding forest that the character always chooses and says, "This is obviously the wrong way." But that's not what it looks like in life. It's not that clear, is it? It's not. It's difficult to understand and to know which path to take, which choice to make. I think a better description would be we often come up to not crossroads, but to, through the eyes of an American, a roundabout, in which we immediately have no idea what we're doing in any way, shape, or form. Like we get there and it's like, do I go clockwise, anti-clockwise? Do I let that person go? Do I indicate? Quick question. Who doesn't indicate when they go through the roundabout here in Thief? Who doesn't indicate, okay? Who does indicate? You're right. You're supposed to indicate at a roundabout, and I could go on for 47 years about why, but I'm not going to. But the point of the matter is, we arrive at these crossroads, these junctions, these roundabouts, and most of the times, it's just a guess. How do I navigate this? What should I do? But there are even times when we don't even see the crossroad coming. And what happens then is we go through life more like this guy. That's one way to do life. I mean, you're going to wake up in the morning and say, what the crap happened there? But still, it's probably fun in the moment. God is saying we don't have to go through life like that. We don't have to plow over roundabouts and through crossroads hoping that on the other side it was a good decision. We actually can choose to live life in a way that replenishes the soul. That's what the church is called to do, to live a little bit differently, to live with life ways that replenishes, that honors God, that gives life to us and others around us. And if you're at that point, you're in that place, I want you to consider starting to take better care of your soul. To give you some next steps this week, what I want you to do is I want to challenge you to do one, two, or both of these things. First, caring for your soul, part A. We do something very strategically here at Epiphany Station, which is we have created what we call discipleship training classes. That if we were to boil down their purpose, it is to help people take steps in the godly way. To be able to work with someone who can show and teach you what it means to follow Jesus Christ, to love God and to love people. The information about our newest discipleship training classes is on the back of your program. The first one is going to be launching October 8th, and it's called Jesus 101. For those who want to know who Jesus is, understand more of who Jesus is and what it means now to the way that we're going to do life. The next one will launch on October 10th, the next Wednesday, called Church 101, in which we get to talk about what it means to be the church. If you've never been to church, you've never experienced it, and you want to know why we do this seemingly very weird thing, or there's some aspects of church you feel like you haven't fully grasped, we would love to be able to walk you through what church means and why it has purpose and place. Now, we put these on, and they will launch, and they go for about 8 weeks. And we put them on, and they're free because we want to do everything we can to help people who are ready to take steps in the godly way. So if you are at that place where you think that investing an hour more a week in your soul would be good, that you would benefit from being instructed more in following the godly way, I'm going to challenge you to sign up for one of the discipleship training classes. To be able to take that time on a weekly basis to have poured into you what it means to be able to live in a soul-replenishing way. Part B of caring for your soul. Part B is more about the right now. It's more personal. It's more about you. It's more about today, because caring for your soul means admitting rebellion. Caring for your soul means admitting that you're not perfect. Caring for your soul means admitting to God and saying, I am sorry for the things I have done to hurt myself. The things that I have done where I have chosen the other route that has caused you pain, me pain, others pain. And your step in caring for your soul is to talk to Him about it. The ability to talk to Him about it in prayer and to ask for forgiveness, to ask to be able to be helped, to be brought back around in walking in the godly way. If you have something of an inclination towards that today and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you have no idea what it means to talk to God, you have no idea what it means to talk to God in this way, we would love to help. That's why the church exists. If you would like to talk to somebody from our leadership team, we have our connection cards by the red boxes that you can fill out and throw in the box, and someone will be in touch with you this week. Or if maybe God's working a little bit harder on your soul today, and He doesn't want you to leave today without talking to someone. That's why we have our prayer team. They're currently gathered in the back corner over here, but during our last worship song today, they'll be right up front where you can see them, where you can find them, to be able to come and be prayed for. Because the truth about your soul damage is this: no matter how it was caused, or where it came from, or how long you've had it, we are all responsible to do something with it. Because God has called out to his people and said, there is a way. There is a way for it to be repaired. There is a way for it to be restored. There is a way for you to find rest for your souls. Every single one of us has the opportunity to walk in this way. And our challenge is, if we want to truly love him and to love God and, quite frankly, to love ourselves, that is the way we need to walk. As we wrap up our conversation today, we get the opportunity to do something, to remember what it took for us to have this opportunity, for us to be able to be restored and reconciled to our God. We're going to get to take communion together as a family here in a minute. Now, communion comes from that place where God said, I want you to do something that reminds you how much I love you. Jesus, towards the end of his life, gathered his followers. He took bread and he took wine. He said, I want you to see in these two things, on regular occasion, what was necessary for me to pay a debt for your rebellion. For me to be able to clear the slate over and over and over again for you. It took my body, it took my blood, it took everything I had to give for you. So we take communion to remember what is most important. We take communion to be able to remember that we get to have a healthy soul. We are not abandoned. We are not left alone. So if you're ready to admit your rebellion, you're ready to take communion with us. If you're ready to let Jesus Christ be your king and you'll actually follow, you're ready to take communion with us. The way that we do it here at Epiphany Station is we have you come down the center aisle, and the communion can be found, gluten and gluten-free options and a non-alcoholic juice on the corners of the stage. You can take that and head back down the sides and take a seat and take that whenever you're ready. But consider what it means in your life personally, specifically rebellion. Because it's there. Because every pastor, every elder, every overseer, every worship team member, every person on this world has rebellion. And we have to deal with it if we want a healthy soul. You take that when you're ready, because our worship team is going to come up here and they're going to play a couple of songs. And like I said, during the second song, our prayer team will be up here to be ready to pray with you if that's what you need today. But I'd love to close this in prayer if you want to join me with it. Father God, we thank you that we are able to come and admit our rebellion, not like a scared child to an angry parent, but to a loving one who already knows it and is just waiting to say, I forgive you. We thank you that we get to step up like that with confidence. So God, help us not to be afraid today, to admit that aspect, that one thing, that area, that whole life in which we've decided our way was best. Because God, it isn't working. And we want health in our souls, and we want health in our churches and in our marriages and in our schools and in our communities, and we need to do that by submitting to the best way. So help us to live like we believe in rebellion, and we believe that we've done it, and we believe that we need to flee from it. Help us do that in Jesus' name. Amen.